Thanks for checking out Pines to Pasture. If you enjoy this content and like what you learned from this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. It costs you nothing, and I would really appreciate your help growing the channel. Are you trying to increase the cinematic depth and detail of your footage? Do you lie awake at night trying to figure out how your favorite productions bake in that secret sauce into their color grading? Let me show you how to transform your footage from this to this and ultimately this, using the most dynamic, exhaustive film emulation plugin available. Welcome to Dehancer. Absolutely incredible. I cannot believe that I have my hands on this gear.
Whether it's a high-end box door or if it was just a
I don't know. I've asked Randy that, and he won't tell me.
Wow, that is just a small fraction of all the film negatives that are available at your fingertips within Dehancer. I mean, those clips tell the story of just how robust and powerful this film emulation program actually is. A little bit about myself. My name is Steve Molnar, and I've been working in the broadcast sports industry for the past 27 years in every facet you can imagine, from filming to editing, and currently I'm a senior broadcast engineer. I'm also an aspiring colorist, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can as I move through this journey. In my quest to increase the cinematic depth and detail of my footage on my projects, I had been considering a film emulation program, and I stumbled upon Dehancer this time last year, but I just didn't get the opportunity to get around to trying it out. So, in January of this year, I reached out to Dehancer and asked if I could review their product. Boy, am I glad I did. One of the really cool things about Dehancer is not only do they continue to add more film stock negatives and film effects, but they're also expanding into mobile phones, tablets, and their own desktop application that I'm hoping to do a review on in the future. If you decide that Dehancer is for you and you want to save some money, you can use my discount code HUNT4COLOR10. This discount code will save you 10% on both the monthly and annual subscriptions from the new mobile option all the way through their production tier. Now let's dive into the color grading with Dehancer Pro. One of the things that drew me to Dehancer is even a novice colorist like myself can dive into this program and make my footage look amazing, and so can you. Speaking of which, you don't even need a node tree or CSTs to start out. You can go right into the plugin, scrolling down at the bottom after you install it, drag and drop it onto your node, I highly recommend going in and turning off all the tools to start. Makes it a lot easier, and you can turn them on one by one as you need them. When you open the plugin, it defaults the input source to Rec 709, but you can choose your camera. In this case, I shot this with a Sony a7S III. Once you choose your camera's manufacturer and format, Dehancer will perform the color space transform for you. You then have the ability to adjust exposure, temperature, tint, and defringe radius. Looking at our vector scope, I can see that my temperature is just ever so slightly off, so I can adjust that to try to get that back into the center. We'll smooth out those skin tones a little bit, and we'll get a little closer to where we need to be with a little less red and magenta into that color. There, that looks a little better. Exposure is decent on that. I feel pretty good about that. Now we're ready to choose one of the 60 film negatives available within Dehancer. I've chosen the Kodak Vision 3 T200. I like this one. I've used it for quite a few of my projects, and I think it does a great job with the film emulation of Kodak film. Once we enable it, it gives us the ability to push and pull the full color space of that whole film stock. I think I'm going to settle in somewhere right about here. We can come back and adjust this later and fine tune it in. Next, we can expand the film developer feature. Once enabled, we have the ability to change the contrast, the gamma correction, color separation, and color boost, which will bring some color back into this image. I'll go through and I'll increase the contrast just a little bit. The gamma correction to brighten that up a little. And now we'll introduce some color back into that. Not too much, just a little bit. Next, we'll go over to the film compression. This is going to preserve your highlights, and I find that it's more helpful within any outdoor footage that I shoot, but it has its place within indoor shoots as well. Once enabled, you can increase the impact. You'll see it change the background, the highlights behind our subject's head here. It's going to bring that down and preserve some of those highlights in these areas and the brightest parts. You'll start to see a little bit of information brought back from the image if it's overexposed for some reason. We can also set the white point, which will ever so slightly change our image. The tonal range has a big effect, and it will soften your image the more you increase. I don't really usually go much beyond 45. Color density is another feature, and it's very, very subtle. I'll leave it right about there. Once enabled, I also like to enable the analog range limiter. This makes sure that we don't clip. Before we get much deeper into changing our overall image in the expand tool and the print, this is a good time to check out the monitor tools available within Dehancer. If we scroll down to the bottom, we'll find the monitor tree pull down. Not only is a clipping indicator built into this program, but also false color and IRE. Normally you'd have to buy or download an additional LUT for false color, but the people at Dehancer are smart enough to include it in their plugin. Also, a very helpful tool is the clipping indicator. This will show you when your blacks are crushed or your highlights are overblown. I'll go ahead and turn on our clipping indicator, which will help us preserve our highlights and shadows as we continue to edit with Dehancer. Moving back up to our print tab, I'll go ahead and enable the print and also the analog range limiter. This is going to help us preserve our highlights and shadows even more. We'll select the Kodak 2383 print film. I really like this one. It gives a great, deep, contrasty look. But the Fujifilm 3513 and even just the Kodak Endura glossy paper is a really nice option to play around with. Let's go ahead and turn on the Kodak 2383 print now. Instantly, our image has way more contrast. And because we have our clipping indicator on, we can see that none of our blacks or highlights are crushed or overblown. Let's continue. With the Kodak 2383 print on, our image looks great, but we can do more. I'm going to make some changes to the target white exposure, tonal contrast, color density, and saturation to really dial this in. Color density is really nice. You can really inject quite a bit of color back into your image. This color density slider really comes into play after we've made changes to our film compression. We can really inject some color back in after drawing some of it out with the film compression feature. This image is looking really good right now, but now we can fine tune it a little more, going back in to our film developer. I'm going to throw just a little bit more contrast in, change the gamma ever so slightly, and add a little more color. There's 3 more amazing tools in film effects found down here: film grain, halation, and bloom. As soon as I enable the film grain, we can see that awesome thick texture from the film baked into our image, and it looks great. Personally though, I really like to use the 65mm 50, which gives a slightly more subtle film grain image. I'll turn it up just a little bit here, just to make sure we can see that grit. I really love the way that looks. Let's see how that plays out.
I don't know, and I've asked Randy that. And
I think that looks phenomenal. Halation is a great tool as well, which adds a glow into our light and increases the red and yellow highlights of certain aspects of our image. I stick with 35mm on this, but I will bring it down a little bit. You can see the subtle differences as I move the slider across our image. Next is bloom. This is a great film effect that you can add to your image, and you can see the increase as we move across the slider. People pay hundreds of dollars in mist filters to get this effect, but it's baked in once you put the filter on the front of your lens. Here in Dehancer, you can add as little or as much as you want to the image in post. The remaining film effects have their use case for each project. Film damage, film breath, gate weave, and overscan all provide the ability to enhance your film and take it to the next level. Moving back down to the bottom, we can open our output tab and we can change the total impact that Dehancer has on our footage. Much like a coarse adjustment or an opacity, once we move down past 90%, we really start to see just how much we can impact our image. Another great feature is you have the ability to generate a LUT from the film look that you've created. After spending all that time dialing in your settings and the look that you want, why not save it to use again for the future? Lastly, we can open our options tab and we can choose the quality, either normal and fast or high and slow. The speed and horsepower of your CPU and GPU will determine where you want to set this. I thought I'd also take a moment to show you the iOS app available in the Apple Store. You can take Rec 709 footage or S-Log3 footage, or any log footage for that matter, including Apple. Choosing the Edit tab, we can go over to our source and we can choose our camera, manufacturer, and format once again. Again, I shot this footage on Sony a7S III, S-Log3, Cinegamut 3. The app processes the color space transform, and you can immediately change exposure and temperature. All the film stock negatives available in Dehancer Pro in the plugin are available on the iOS app. Every feature available in your Dehancer Pro plugin for your platform of choice is available in the Dehancer app available for iOS. If you find yourself predominantly creating content with your phone, then the Dehancer mobile app is perfect for baking in that look you want before you release your footage to social media. And the pricing plan is quite good. If you're still hanging in here at this point, thanks so much. I really appreciate you checking out this video and learning more about Dehancer Pro with me. I'm doing everything I can to grow this new channel. So if you like this content and everything else you find at Pines to Pasture, please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.